We become the person we need to become in order to live the life we want to live. I wrote this down in my journal the other day, and I was thinking about this idea through the lens of where do we create that life from? This dream life, this utopia of success that we're trying to attain or trying to reach. Where are we creating that life from? Are we creating it from matter, or are we creating it from quantum, from energy? And I have this idea that when you create from matter, it turns you into a not a great version of who you're meant to be. And when you create from quantum, you are turned into the best version of who you're meant to be. And I don't know if this is always true, but I know for sure that when I create from energy and quantum, I'm much happier when I get the thing that I'm trying to get because I've let go of the outcome. So when it comes, it's just like the cherry on top. So, as an example, like when you create from matter, you are so tied to the outcome because it's not just getting the thing. The thing is informing some sort of identity that you're lacking or some sort of value or worth that you're trying to achieve. So you're trying to get a bigger house, you're trying to get a nicer car, you're trying to get more money. And when you're trying to get that from matter, because your identity is tied to the outcome, you are much more likely to lie, cheat, and steal in order to get that thing. And even if you don't lie, cheat, and steal, it's not that extreme. That's an extreme version. You're much more likely to abandon your family or maybe even just be less present with your family. You're much more likely to snap at your wife because you're needing this thing. You're holding on to the outcome so tightly because that's tied to your identity. And you need that thing in order to feel some sort of value or worth. I'm using extreme versions. Not everyone is so tied to the outcome or their identity, but usually when you are focused on this better life, this more money, nicer car, bigger house, and none of that stuff is wrong. Like I have no problem with any of that stuff. But I think the place you create that life from highly dictates the life we're going to live. Are we going to live a life of stress and anxiety and this kind of like just this holding on, this needing this thing to work out so that you can feel this sense of worth or value? When you create from quantum, the whole idea of creating from quantum is surrender. It's surrendering to the timeline and the outcome. And so people who are creating their dream life from quantum, a bigger house, a nicer car, whatever, whether or not they get those things isn't as important as who they become in that journey. Oftentimes, as you're the whole idea of quantum is surrender. And so you're surrendering to the uncertainty of the thing coming or not and the timeline of when it comes. And I think that the difference of where you create from highly dictates the life you're going to live. I find that when I fall out of flow, this belief and this like comfort, this dream in my heart that I'm moving towards and I'm letting go of the outcome. When I fall out of this sense of peace and this sense of excitement for my life and this just like I can't explain it. It's like a high that you're experiencing when you just have so much belief that life turns out exactly as it's supposed to, not exactly how you want it to all the time, but as it's supposed to. You've let go of the outcome. When I fall out of that flow is when I become uncomfortable with the timeline and the uncertainty in my life. If I can remain okay and surrender, this idea of surrendering, I'm stoked. I don't need the thing that whether or not that vintage Porsche comes or, the house of my dreams or whatever, I want those things, but my identity isn't tied to those things. It's more like who I'm becoming on this journey is what I'm in it for. And whether or not I get those things isn't as big of a deal. And so if you're a Christian and you're watching this, because I know I have a fairly large Christian audience, to put all of this language in something you'll understand is when you trust God, your life gets better because His plan and His timeline is better than yours 10 times out of 10. So all of that language I just said, summarized in one simple phrase for the Christians, is when you trust God, life gets better. Someone asked me what's the difference between matter and quantum. What does that mean? Creating from matter is this idea that if I want a $400,000 home, and I make $50 an hour, I got to work this amount of hours to make that $400,000 to pay the person who owns a home the $400,000, and now that house is mine. It's like this idea that everything is an even exchange, and you have to do this, this, and this to get the thing. And so you're just kind of like going through robotically versus when you're creating from quantum, you're basically speaking a desire or a goal or a wish or a dream in your heart, and then you're just letting it go. And you are open to how and when that thing comes, if it comes. But the journey is finding this peace within your heart to let go of the outcome, to surrender to this thing that is like, okay, I trust and believe that if that thing coming into my life is the best for my life, and that's the purpose and fits the alignment of like where my life is meant to go, like I'm okay with it. And so you're not as tied to the outcome. You're more just on this journey of like, I think this thing would be fun to experience. And I hope that happens one day, but I'm going to let that go, and I'm going to surrender to if that thing is meant for me or not. I'll give you a couple examples just as like I doubt this stuff all the time. Like this stuff is really growing up in the world that I grew up in. Understanding this stuff is really really hard for me, and I have to keep examples in front of me that remind me I have created from this space before. I have put some sort of intention out into the world, let it go completely, and the way it came was so different than what I imagined. So I had about $20,000 in debt a little while back. And it was credit card debt, wasn't great. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always taking risks in my life when it comes to finances and growing businesses and taking a chance on myself. And so while I was building this thing, I'd gone a little bit in debt, and I wanted to pay that debt off. And I landed this contract that was a decent sized contract. And I thought to myself, man, it would be so cool if this person advanced me 20 grand so I could pay off this debt. And I mean, I'm a businessman. I know that there's no reason to think that would happen. I know that there's no reason that person would pay me a $20,000 advance. There's no way I would ever ask for that. There's just no world ever where I would pursue that or ask for it or think it should or could happen. But I just said it. I just said, man, what if I could just get paid 20 grand in advance towards this contract, and I could pay off this debt and it'd be gone. A week later, my client reached out to me and they said, "Hey, I want to advance you $19,500, $500 shy of what my debt was and what I wanted to pay off." And I was just like, "What do you mean? Why?" Turns out there was some sort of tax benefit for them and for me, for them to give me a lump sum of 19,500, and then they just paid the rest of the contract out over the 12 months of that the contract was going to be. So I got this $19,500 advance for no reason. I literally just spoke it, and a week later it came. Another example I'll give you is in 2023. At one point, I wrote in my journal, I want to experience a little bit more of luxurious travel. And when I said that, like what was in my mind was like those like huts on the water in like Bora Bora. Like I always just thought those were so cool. But another really specific area was buying a higher class of plane ticket, whether that was Comfort Plus or first class or whatever. And I just kind of like said, I've always traveled like a dirtbag. And in general, that's how I like to travel. When I go to a place, I like staying in hostels. I meet other people. I like eating at local spots because that's where you get the best food. And yeah, it's also cheaper. That's how I've enjoyed most of my travels. Most of the places I've been in the world, I've really enjoyed traveling that way. And so I want to, experience some, maybe luxury hotels, and then it'd be often by like a nicer class flight. This was 2023. At the end of 2023, My brother informed me. My brother's a pilot for Delta, and he used to have like 7 buddy passes a year that he could give away, but you're such a low priority. They're such a pain to use. And then he had his like companion pass that he had his wife had. My brother informed me at the end of 2023, going into 2024, Delta was getting rid of those 7 buddy passes, and they were adding a second companion pass that every pilot could give to someone. And my brother was going to give it to me. The cool part about this is, especially when you travel overseas, not everyone with status gets an upgrade to first class or Delta One, say. So anyone flying standby, which is what I fly on my brother's companion pass, they had access to those more like luxurious flights or tickets. And so multiple times now, I've flown to and from Europe in Delta One, the like fully laid down seats. Like that was just something I put out and just said, I would love to experience this. And I thought the only way to achieve that was to get more money and pay for the seat. And I have made more money in the last year, and I could, pay for a Delta One seat, but it's not likely I'm going to. Like, I can't, I can't justify spending, like 5 grand on a seat just over to Amsterdam. I sleep pretty good in regular seats, but I just thought it'd be fun. It'd be fun to experience Delta One. It'd be fun to experience more, um, expensive class flights. Cool. I'm gonna just put this out there and write it down in my journal and just let it go. Surrender. Surrender to the outcome, the timeline, the uncertainty, all of it. And that came. Another thing I want to talk about is this idea of success. As you're moving towards this better life, what does success look like? And I think that we're taught that success looks like this big, huge, magical explosion of a moment in your life that you're going to look back on for the rest of your life and be like, that was it, that was success. And I think there are big moments where things like that happen, quantum leaps, things come really quickly and you're just like, whoa, this is huge, this is awesome. But I found before that moments like that have happened, but I didn't feel peace in my heart. Like I didn't always feel this huge sense of success because I was the goalpost had moved. What I wanted in my life was further down the road. And so we think about success as these big, huge moments in time that we're going to remember forever. But oftentimes, what success looks like to me is just getting better, 1, 2% better every day. And these small moments that compound over a long period of time. And because if we wait for the big, huge moment that does happen every now and then, we're going to live a life that feels crappy. We're not going to feel like we're in success. I say it like this, it's like success isn't just achieving this huge goal or this huge dream. It's any time you have a goal or a dream in your heart and you are actively moving towards that thing. And you are open to that thing coming, and you are living a life that you are happy about and you're passionate about. And so I think we talk about success like it's this on or off switch. A lot of gurus are talking about success like either you are or you aren't, and either your switch is on or it's off. And if you notice, a lot of them are kind of insinuating that your switch is off and they have the ticket to the success you're looking for that will turn your switch on. And I think it's just so much more nuance in that. There's certain areas of our life where we're successful and other areas we're not. And if we're always focused and looking at and putting a glass, like a huge microphone or like a magnifying glass on the areas that we're not successful, we're not going to feel like a success. We're going to feel like a failure. And that's something I'm notorious at. I have this new idea in my life, and because it's new, of course, I'm going to be bad at it and I want to be good at it right away. And I put all my worth and all my value in becoming successful at that one thing that I'm of course not going to be good at. And then I feel like a failure. Rather than just recognizing me taking action and steps towards the thing that I desire is success. And so be very conscious to just recap, be very conscious of where you are creating from. Is it from matter or is it from quantum? And then keep a healthy definition of what success looks like as you move towards that thing. Again, the times I fall out of flow and I fall out of just this peace and this surrender is when I become uncomfortable with the timeline. I no longer think success is just showing up each day and trying. I think it's this far off destination that I have to get to or I have to reach before I can feel the happiness and the joy and the fulfillment of success. And I don't think that's true. So create from quantum every chance you get. And if you are creating from matter, at least be aware that your identity is tied to a lot of things you're trying to get. And if it wasn't, could you just let go? Could you be more at peace with where you're at right now, in the now, not when that thing comes, but in the now, and keep a healthy definition of success. That's all I got for you. Peace.